This book is called Mind Control in the United States by Stephen Jacobson, and it was published in 2015. I will be breaking up the analysis of this book into two different parts. So first I'll begin with the biographical information. Stephen Jacobson is a graduate of Boston University School of Communications, and he worked in the film industry for 13 years. His father was a hypnotist, researcher, and consultant to the medical profession, and Stephen followed in his footsteps. He has spent over 30 years studying the mind control issue. Professor Anthony C. Sutton wrote the introduction to this book, and he gave it a glowing recommendation. In this book, the author's thesis is basically that the United States is a free society, but methods of subliminal manipulation and control are being used on Americans, just as they have been used on people in the former Soviet Union and Communist China. The book is about how these methods are being used by the elitists who control society in order to co-opt the freedoms of the American people and bring about the nightmare scenario that George Orwell described in his landmark book 1984. The book details the history and practice of subliminal communication. In doing this, Jacobson discusses the principles of mental programming and how it is done. His goal is to inform the population about this so that we can learn how to protect ourselves from subconscious manipulation. He says the techniques used to enslave the mind are the same used to free it. He also makes the important point that the use of these methods remove our free will and make a mockery of our Constitution. That the authority of the government in a republic comes from the consent of the governed, and we aren't being asked to give our consent here. He says that the goal of these methods is to control us without our being consciously aware, and that this is akin to tyranny. Topics from the table of contents. How mental programming works and is implemented through the power of music, TV, radio, and film. Hypnotists and hypnosis and the role it plays in the process of mental programming. How the media, the education system, manipulate our minds by using these methods. The ruling elite and the power of money and the role each plays in the process of mental programming. And the use of occult or hidden knowledge and drugs for the purpose of controlling the minds of the masses. Summary of main ideas for Part 1. First, the techniques that are being utilized toward the ends of controlling the population have been around for a long time. In fact, Jacobson says they are ancient. He lists them as mind control, hypnotic suggestion, and mental programming. The effect that these techniques have on the human mind is to distract it and to make people hypersuggestible, so their thinking brains will be hijacked. Once this is accomplished, suggestions can be implanted into the subconscious mind via subliminal methods. Music is one of the methods that is used to plant these suggestions because it has the ability to affect the body, mind, and the emotions. This is because all sound is vibration and frequency, and our bodies and minds are very sensitive to the sounds that vibrate in our bodies. Jacobson quotes Jimi Hendrix, who said, "You can hypnotize people with music, and when you get them at their weakest point, you can preach into their subconscious whatever you want to say." Watching television puts people into the same hypersuggestible state, as do motion pictures. They induce an altered state in the person watching because although the screen seems as though it is static, in reality it flickers. This leads the watcher to go into a state of hypnosis because of the repeating light and sound patterns. One important topic in this book is about information control. Jacobson says that secret knowledge is the basis of all power, and a small group of people control what we are told. One example he uses to make this point concerns a study of high school history textbooks that was done in the 1950s. In the books, no mention is made of the word republic, even though the form of government set up by our founders is a constitutional republic, not a democracy. In addition, the textbooks advocated the viewpoint that world government is preferable over a government that promotes national interests. Jacobson also talks about how language is purposely manipulated in order to confuse the meaning of words and implant suggestions in the mind of the public. He terms this psychological warfare. One example he gives is the use of the word federal in the name Federal Reserve System. The Fed is a private corporation owned by stockholders and operated for profit. Therefore, it cannot be federal. Furthermore, it has no reserves. Monopoly of mass media is another important topic covered in this book. Jacobson contends that without mass media, the elite would not be able to propagandize the population. Those who run the media have consolidated their control so that now they pretty much run everything. Press, publishing, radio, television, film, and their goal is to keep people in a state of fear, ignorance, and consensus trance, because this makes them easy to control and highly suggestible. He says, the nation is experiencing the effects of a scientifically induced nervous breakdown. Psychological warfare and economic warfare are both being used against an unsuspecting public. He also gives examples of how the populace is fooled by politicians who appear to be one thing, but behind the scenes are quite another. Communication depends a great deal on nonverbal aspects such as actions, postures, movements, and expressions. Body language says a lot. In addition, he makes the comment that words don't always communicate truthfully either. Here is my comment, critique, and analysis of Part 1. First of all, I would like to note NLP techniques. NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and this is a form of hypnosis whereby very powerful hypnotic language is used to induce trance. One example of an NLP technique is former President Barack Obama, who used to, when he was speaking, all of the time say, look. He would start off by saying, look. Of course, this elicits a specific response from the audience. We look at him. What does this mean? Well, now he has our attention and he has our focus. And the first thing a hypnotist must do before putting someone in a trance is to direct the individual's focus. So when Barack Obama would say, look, and we look at him, now he has us primed to be ready for his message. The most important tool of a hypnotist is the voice. The tone of the hypnotist, speed of speaking, pauses, vocal quality, all of these are key to eliciting trance in a subject. An important book that I read was called 4 Arguments for the Elimination of Television. Television is toxic and the perfect tool for shaping minds and perspectives, controlling them and molding them to the official narrative. The same can be said for some types of music and film. Subliminal messages are absorbed into the subconscious mind very easily when we are in a hypersuggestible state. And think about it, when you go to see a film, the main goal is to put you in a hypersuggestible state so you're ready to get engrossed in the movie. So the screen is huge, the sound is loud, music plays an important role, as do colors on the screen, which flashes pictures very quickly at times. All of these things interact to make your analytical mind, the critical factor, slip back so that you are able to get engrossed in the film. What does that mean? Your attention is focused. You aren't critically analyzing every aspect of the film saying, well, that couldn't really happen or that isn't real. You're engrossed in the film. You are immersed in a state of hypnosis. In other words, you're primed for accepting the message that is being relayed. That is the essence of being under a hypnotic trance. And finally, some questions to think about. How can we wake up the public to the fact that deception is being used on a mass scale by the media, politicians, corporations, the school system, and the Eastern establishment controllers like the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergers, and other elitists? This deception is leading to the erosion of our constitutionally guaranteed freedoms. So how do we stop it before our Bill of Rights is rendered meaningless? And finally, one of the biggest questions: why are there so many people who have no idea what is even in the Constitution? Is this why they are so seemingly undaunted by the loss of our freedoms and the ever-encroaching power of the deep state? Why isn't the Constitution being taught and emphasized in our schools so that people can be aware that their constitutionally, supposedly protected freedoms are being eroded every single day? See you next time.